What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Here for the Truth podcast. I'm Joel Rafidi, got my co-host Erasmus with me. And today we have Steve Falconer in the house. Definitely an eccentric guy, awesome energy. Loved having this conversation, bridging a number of different topics, his personal story, and then also some of his recent research into what I guess he would call the truth about our ancient history, and whether how much of it is actually as ancient as it seems to be geographically. Did they take place in the places that we're told they took place? Where did a lot of this ancient mystical knowledge truly come from? So I think this will be a fascinating conversation, which you guys will really, really, really enjoy. Other than that, if you're down to step a foot deeper into our world, we do have our membership community, Friends of the Truth. We're hosting multiple calls a month, diving deep with ourselves and other experts into the topics that we're really interested in, exploring the worlds of astrology, of tarot, of German new medicine, of the nervous system, and also just a great way to connect with like-minded community who are on this path, who get it, you can be yourself around. So if you'd like to learn more about that, you can head to friendsofthetruth.co. And if you jump in, say hello and we'll be around. Please enjoy this episode.
You are now listening to the Here for the Truth podcast, hosted by Joel Rafidi and Yerasimos.
All right, everybody. Today we have with us Steve Falconer, author and filmmaker. He's a prolific political commentator and the voice of Space Busters on YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, and Vigilante.tv. He is also the author of the children's book, The Dukes of Dance, available on all Amazon platforms, and a former writer and administrator for Truth Serum News, where he wrote under the pen name. You gonna say your pen name because I can't pronounce it?
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Is that what it is? He's a former Chicago native living in Copenhagen, Denmark, a music teacher and full-time touring musician, father, researcher into all things hidden, esoteric, and out of the ordinary daily experience with a gift for debunking or demystifying occulted information. Steve, thanks for being here for the truth, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Sorry about last time as well. I missed the time, but it should be fun. I don't know where we're going, but let's wing it and see.
No worries at all, man. Yeah, for sure. One way we always like to kick this off, man, we want to get deep into your personal story, your hero's journey. Like, what kind of led you along this path? What were some of the major rites of passage that you've experienced?
Just from young, I was one of those guys who just didn't like school. You know what I mean? It just felt like a waste of time. I did like minimal effort to get passing grades and stuff. I could always ace a few classes and then would always get like C's or, just try to get through and pass. So I always kind of had like a distaste for authority. Then I kind of started waking up after 9/11. A friend of mine, I had been reading some books like The Spider's Web, how the U.S. was funding Iran and Iraq against each other and laundering money through an Italian bank in Atlanta, Georgia. So I wasn't super awake, but I was like catching on that something was wrong. Then after 9/11, I was like, all right, what's going on? Something's wrong here, So like, I think like most other people, I started diving down the rabbit hole. I found Max Egan and, people like David Icke and all G. Edward Griffith. And, I just started getting into like the usual suspects. And then I started diving down all the rabbit holes. And then I sort of got into the esoteric stuff. I started looking into the occult because as you start researching what's going on in the world, you start to find out it's run by occultists, and the symbols are everywhere. So I kind of got heavy into that. Then I was writing, for Truth Serum News, which the website is now gone because the girl passed away who was running it and paying it. So I don't know how to put it back up. And then my best friend Ross started a channel called Space Busters, and I thought, oh, that looks fun. Like I think I could make videos. Because I actually went to college. I went to Columbia for radio broadcast entertainment. So I went to college to be like a radio DJ, like a talk show host.
In New York, in New York City? You were in New York?
I went to Chicago, Columbia College, not university.
College. Okay, I thought Columbia.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, yeah, Columbia. So that was my education. And then I also had worked while I was in college, I was working in the insurance industry. So I was working in the health and life insurance industry and then private. So I kind of had an inside track on that, like what a whole racket the whole medical and life insurance industry was. So anyway, yeah. So later I started making videos, with Space Busters, and then the Convid hit. And I had already been researching germ theory since 2007, 8. I'd been friends with Amanda Vollmer, Amanda. So I just started making videos just for our subs. I was just like, hey guys, viruses they're not proven. This is BS. And a couple of them just took off, like got millions of views. And it was like, oh my God. And then suddenly I just kind of got thrown in with all these germ theory doctors. I did a movie with Dr. Andrew Kaufman, did a 3 with Mark Bailey. Suddenly I'm just sitting in with all these people. I didn't mean to. and it was those that really kind of launched our channel. And I met Erasmus. We met at Anarchapulco. So I got invited to speak there and just did Liverpoco. Are you going back, brother? Are you there this year?
No, I'm not. I mean, there hasn't been an invitation, and I think we're just going to chill here in California. I don't know if we're going to go.
Right. Yeah. I'm going back to speak again this year, but it would have been fun if you guys were down again.
Yeah. I mean, you never know what'll happen. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 months away. Anything can happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, yeah. And then, people started writing and calling, and like, I started getting invited onto things like this, radio shows, podcasts. And people just seemed interested to talk to me and find out what I knew and what was going on. And then recently I've started kind of doing like you guys. I call it the podcast that isn't a podcast. I invite people on I think are interesting and I interview them. I'm not like a really good host or anything, but we just kind of talk like this. And I just get people, I think they have stuff that my subs would like to see or learn about. Yeah. So, and then in a weird way, I'm back here again doing what I went to school to do, which is weird. Irony.
Yeah, man. It's, this is what I love about how things are shifting in the world. I know people have been posting about, talking about, and even from an astrological standpoint, this idea that like legacy media is dead, and it's like people are turning to podcasts, people turning to shows like this, because at the end of the day, they're like, what am I interested in? What do I want to explore? How do I want to expand my mind? And I love it. I love that we're able to create these platforms. I love that Joel and I met 3.5 years ago, and we're just like, let's have conversations. What does it mean to be here for the truth? Being here for the truth means you're willing to push the envelope and have all sorts of conversations. I'm not saying I agree with every single thing every one of my guests says or our guests say, but it's like, can you even take the information in? Can you challenge your mind? Can you be curious enough before that part comes in to go, you're fucking full of shit, you're stupid, you're a conspiracy theorist? Like, what would happen if you just consider it, And there's so much that come at play here, like the state of your psyche, the state of your nervous system, all these things that allow an individual to stay curious and stay open. So, I love the rabbit holes, and I love challenging established norms.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the main thing is, legacy media, last I had seen years ago, they were already down to 60% viewership. And then I just saw a woman talking about, she went into the ratings for like CNN's main news show for 5 days. They were getting like 80,000 views. It was ridiculous. Like Alex Zek gets more in his podcast, So the governments are clearly paying those stations just to keep the charade going. But as you say, they're dying, and it is podcasts like yours and these kind of truth, people do keep up with the Joneses, and I think you used to, like, you read on the newspaper on the way to work what's going on, then you talk about it at the water cooler, and then you see it on the news, and then you take that as fact or truth. But now they're getting to the water cooler and saying, hey, what do you think's going on in Palestine? And suddenly there's 2 people who are watching stuff like yours. And they're saying, well, this is what's going on. And they're saying, whoa, I didn't hear that. The news, how do you know that? And now they're starting to feel left out, that the Joneses know more than they do about what's really going on in the world. And then I think a lot of people are now bailing ship to come over to things like this. It's kind of funny because alternative media, we never declared war on mainstream media or anything. We just went out and did what we do. We're all looking for the truth. And as you say, they put out rabbit holes, like you say, that the rabbit holes are there by design to get you down them, because it is really hard to find out what is really going on in this world. It's hard. It takes a lot of work and research, and people don't have the time. They just want to know what's going on, So it's good we're all out there doing this and offering it, and it's free. which is great, So I see the tides turning. I used to be a real pessimist. I thought we were screwed, especially during COVID, and everyone was masking. I was like, oh no, man, we're not going to make it. But I don't know what you guys think. In the last 2 or 3 years, I've seen like a really incremental awakening. It was happening anyway, but it seems like it's gone tenfold. What do you guys see on the front line?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I have the eternal optimist within me. Even in the depths of it, it just feels like whatever plays out needs to play out, and it needs to be so extreme, and it needs to be so intense because people need to wake up to that degree. I align with Hermeticism a lot in that regard, and ultimately, man, like I don't think that the truth can ever be fully extinguished. I don't think in the long run the truth can lose. I just don't see that as a potential. But yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm definitely more of an optimist, and even during the fucking COVID times, of course there were things that were a little, tricky to navigate. I mean, we were living in California, Los Angeles area, so obviously from like a socio-political standpoint, certain demographics, approached the whole situation differently. But at the end of the day, like we both work from home. We've been focused on creating and building our life and our community. And so like less on like, oh, what's going to happen? What are they going to do to us next? It's just like, well, what are we going to create next? And what are we going to bring into the world next? And that's kind of been our mindset.
Yeah, man, totally. And I see that people are now doing, they're getting out of the fear and they're starting to do and create, because you can't, if you're in fear, you can't do anything. You just sit around worrying about who's getting us. And yeah, like you said, what are they going to do next? I think COVID woke a hell of a lot of people up. That was too blatantly, I think they botched it. They didn't run that very well. I know a lot of people who are now conspiracy theorists. They're like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I can see that's fucked up. Something's wrong. So that helped us out quite a lot. And yeah, there's a lot more people doing what you're saying, actually, is they're just starting to be open-minded too. I never claim everything I present is the truth either. It's just what I know from my research, and I'm always open to change my mind.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, think about all the times in our lives where like we thought something to be true, and then it's like a new area of research going down, this area of exploration, and we're like, oh wait, well, wow, I never questioned germs before, and here I am questioning germs. Like, and so what's the next thing? And so I try to remain open and skeptical at the same time, with enough space to go, hey, listen, this is where I'm at this point, and I'm open to being wrong in the future. Whereas we see too many people, even in the quote unquote truth or conspiracy world, where it's like just banging you over the head with like, this is the truth, I'm right, you all are fucking idiots. And I just don't think that's the ideal way to communicate. But again, I think we all go on our journeys of maturity. And I think like we're moving to a different place where I just feel like it's like we have to be able to communicate in a different way and not feel so jacked up on like, we're right, everyone else is wrong. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I was just saying, I was on my buddy Adrian's podcast yesterday. Are we on YouTube? Is this going to go on YouTube?
We got deleted off YouTube a few years ago.
Okay, I just want to know if I need to speak code or not, but like, okay. So what I was saying, the difference is like, let's take the germ theory. There were already anti-vaccination leagues in the 1850s and 60s and like Gateshead and places in England. And there were doctors coming out against it. The difference is only people in scientific circles and reading those publications heard it. Now we have the internet. So the difference this time is we are getting this information out to everybody en masse, non-scientists. That's what they didn't have back then. That there's nothing new under the sun, but what we have is this internet weapon. This is the first time we all can get together, and like collaborate. Oh, do you know so-and-so? And he's got this piece of the puzzle and she's got this. And we're all getting together, going on each other's shows and bringing our crowds to each other. And, I'm not saying we're waging war, but we are doing major damage to the main establishment because they built this internet, I'm convinced, as a spy tool, but we have turned it against them and said, screw you. We're going to use this to wake everyone up. And I can, in the future, I can foresee them coming after the internet, either taking it down or making it so you need biometrics to get on or something so that types like us won't do it. You know what I mean? I can see them fearing this because it's working, I think, more against them than it was working for them as a control and spy tool. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, even if they do that, like, it's just another thing of overstepping their bound that I think is just going to wake up more and more people. It's like nothing can stop what's coming in that regards. It's only a matter of time. I think the dam has broken in a lot of ways. And so, I mean, if they all of a sudden have a grid shut down and go, in order for you to use the internet, you must look into this screen and, check your eye pupils, whatever. It's like, what?
But, and also, like, with that level of thinking, I feel as though we can be so isolated in our little worlds. Like, to pull this off globally, something like that is, like, I mean, I'm in Mexico. Like, they're not going to do biometrics anytime soon for the Mexican population to access the internet. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But in my bubble, when I was living in Sydney, sure, I can kind of see how that can take place somewhere like Australia, But then I don't believe they have as much power or as pull as most people tend to give them credit for when they start going down, these layers of research.
I totally agree with you. And I also agree that there are some places that are going to be worse than others. But even like take the United States, you don't really have to run. I mean, if a lot of people are now getting into, common law and living man, living woman, and all of the loopholes are there. You're actually, like, as an American, you're a billionaire creditor for the United States government. People don't know they're loaded. The government owes you $1 billion, and you can just charge all your debts against that. But now so many people are doing that they're starting to make new rules just to make it harder. But you'll have to go to court now. In the old days, you could sign your documents the right way, send it in, and now they're going to make you chase after it. But the loopholes are there because the elites use them too. So I don't think everyone has to run to Mexico or, Micronesia, go sit on an island. There's a lot of mentalities. Do we fight? Do we run? I say we do nothing, none of those. I say we do like Buckminster Fuller said, we put all our energy and attention into creating a new system that makes the old one obsolete, so no one will participate in the old one. Or if they do, it's by choice, at least. The one thing I noticed in 1984, right, that book,
yeah.
Winston and all of them, they're under heavy control, right? But all the proletariats, the proles are out in the city having a good old time drinking in the bars. Once in a while they throw some bombs in there. They didn't join the system. They weren't actually enslaved like Winston and them. And the same in the Brave New World. They go on vacation to see the wild men, which were people like us, just left alone outside, the technocratic or whatever you call it society. So even in those books, they didn't just go out and like kill everyone who didn't join their bullshit. It was voluntary. And so I see it. I see that happening. Like you guys are saying, you don't want to just only concentrate on the self, but you need to get your own affairs in order so that you have energy and time to start helping other people. And you need to be an example that people want to follow. I don't think we should all be out there telling everyone how to live their life. I think we should be living good lives. And they say, how come these people are so happy all the time? Why are these people having a great time in the apocalypse? What's going on? So that's what I think we all need to do. Yeah. Not in a Buddhist way, like only think of yourself and the whole world will change, but like get your shit in order and then the world will change around you.
Yeah, I agree. Like embody the message, like be the message, embody the message. And then all people will just see that and go, I think at some point. I mean, I've already seen examples of that in my own life.
Yeah, I mean, live intentionally. Be mindful of how you're investing your energy. Like, are you driven by a deeper purpose on a day-to-day basis? And like, if you start ticking those boxes, like all this stuff just matters much less. You realize that no one can actually stop me from living a great life and from thriving because I have a creative life force that I can tap into at any given time to create, which is what I'm here to do,
Massively, yeah. And I don't know about you guys, like I screwed up real bad. I really had my awakening 2006, 2007, I was going around screaming to everyone, like, we got to wake up. They're going to kill us. Agenda 20, well, it's 2030, I scared the fuck out of everybody. And I even ended up like, I got a divorce even. It wasn't just because of that, because we were growing apart anyway. Like we're still friends, but she is so normie and I'm so us, so it just wasn't going to happen anyway. But in hindsight, I learned I went about that all wrong. So now I don't do that anymore. I don't really care who believes or wakes up or sees or knows what. I just do like my channel, and I let people come to me instead of me trying to tell everyone they need to to wake up, because at this point, you're either awake or not. The information's out there to know kind of at least what's going on and how to protect yourself, So I see it like, I do see it as society might split into two. I don't know which one you're going to call a breakaway society, but there will be those of us like anarchists who just aren't having it. And we'll be like the wild men in the brave new world, you know what I mean? And I think that our communities are going to flourish. And people are going to be like, hey, I want to come there. I don't want to be sitting locked in a 15-minute smart city, having everything monitored and can't get into the store without a biometrics, So I'm really hopeful. And I also see, because I'm a music teacher too, so I teach kids like 14 to 18 in an after school. These kids are really smart. They're not as stupid as the mainstream. Everyone's trying to tell us their generation is screwed and they're all retarded and some of them think they're a cat and like want to poop in a litter box in school, but like most of them are pretty clued in. And the problem is, they've been teaching them to talk like with emojis and ebonics. They aren't taught how to express themselves the way that we do. And I think it's important there are people like us out there who can articulate things and teach them so that they can get out and articulate to their friends. But I've seen some young people in their early 20s who are talking like us. They sound like 40, 50-year-olds, they know what's up. So I'm really optimistic. I think this younger generation has got a surprise up their sleeve. I think they're going to whoop ass.
Yeah, me too.
Steve, let me ask you this real quickly. When you're teaching, obviously, music, obviously, like, you're a pretty irreverent guy. Like, do you slip in like more general things about the state of the world without maybe getting specifics? Like, viruses aren't real. Like, you're teaching music, like, kind of along with that, like, support people to kind of keep their mind open. And like, I'm curious how your teaching style is without like kind of maybe crossing boundaries that maybe like you shouldn't cross. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do here and there. Like, first of all, I teach at what's called an Ungdom school. It's a night school, really. So there's no grades. It's like kids can learn music or go motorcycle riding or play football or math, computer labs. They can do different stuff. No grades, just to keep them off the streets. So right there, I've already got it easy because we can talk and relax more. There's not even that. But yeah, like, for example, during COVID, I also teach band, and the bosses were like, you have to wipe down all the instruments with these toxic hand wipes and I told all the kids, I'm like, dudes, don't put that on your hands and don't put it on my instruments. Like, there's no viruses. I was just telling them flat out, I'm not afraid of you, and come give me a hug. And, so I was deprogramming their fear, but, and just ignoring my bosses, basically. I didn't go up and tell my bosses I was doing that. Obviously, that would have been stupid. And yeah, sometimes we talk about things or we'll look at songs and I'll say, hey, did you know this? Or did you ever look into this or that and whatever? But, there's a fine line I can't really cross. I can't go like full conspiracy.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. That's why I was curious, like how much do you push the envelope, So that's cool.
Yeah. Hey, let's switch it up. I know you've been diving deep lately into questioning history, even, ancient history and whether it was really ancient in different parts of the world. Can you give us, like, I guess, an overview, a synopsis of where that kind of leads, and we can dive into the meat and bones of it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm in the middle of making a movie called Apocalypse Infinity. So it's a 3-part. It's going to be like probably 2 hours each. So I it's not done. I've been reading as you do. I was making it, and then I'm like, I need to know this, and then you start reading some books, and you're like, holy, So I've taken a pause on the movie because I've been diving into like Michael Tessarian, your friend's books, Anna Wilkes, Connor McDarry, Commons Beaumont. What I'm starting to find out is David Ewing Jr. Have you ever talked to him? He's crazy.
The name sounds familiar, but no.
This guy's incredible. So what I've been finding out is I already knew the evidence is pretty solid that the stories in the Old Testament, their typology is what I call it. So like Blade Runner, for instance, the first Blade Runner movie, that's typology. It's set in Los Angeles, which is a real place, but it was made in 1982 and it's set in, I think, 2018 or 2020 or whatever it is. So the time's wrong. The place is real. The characters are fictional, and the stuff going on in the movie, obviously 2020 didn't look like it Blade Runner thought it would. So that's called typology, when you're putting fiction over kind of fact and then moving the time around. And these authors have convinced me that basically all of the stuff in the Old Testament did not happen in the Middle East. And why this is relevant is because what's going on in the Middle East right now, you have these Jews or Jewish people, they're genociding of people to get back their Holy Land. And it didn't exist there. Judea was Scotland. Jerusalem, the original one, was Edinburgh. And again, now these were and I can go through all this stuff took place in England. And this is where all the fighting with the Roman Empire was happening when they were fighting the Jews in the Jewish wars. This was not happening in the Middle East. Constantine moved all this stuff later to the Middle East when he adopted Christianity as the overall arching religion. And the same as you, I think you saw my talk, didn't you, Erasmus? And
I think just the beginning of it. I don't know if we were going on after you. I forget the timing of it all.
Okay, well, I basically showed like what you call Jews or Hebrews in the Bible. They were Irish Ebers. They were the priests of a religion of the sun called Yesa Krios. They were Druids, and the people who followed them were Udes. Now, the problem is Gaelga, not Gaelic, but what we'd call Old Irish. The Catholic Church murdered everyone who could speak it. There's only 2% of Irish left who can even speak the Old Gaelic, Gaelga that you call it. So when you start looking in here and reading authors like, Commons Beaumont, Connor McDara, Hannah Wilkes, you can see all the names, all the places, all the towns, all the history. They're still there in England. Even the ancient ruins are all there. And these guys went through all the historians and said, how come they're saying that this city has a hill east-west, this, that, and the other? And then they go look at modern day Jerusalem. There's none of that's there. And same with Egypt too. And the same with Greece, and that's what this David Ewing Jr. is doing. He's going in and taking modern cities and ruins that they're claiming to find and going back and finding pictures from 100 years ago. None of it's there. Not even the ruins, not the cities or anything. They're building ruins. These people have been building ruins for 100 years, the Masons, to make people think that all this history happened in a place it didn't. And that's why these archaeologists can never find anything, because it didn't happen there. So it's pretty shocking. I've got some Scottish friends, they laugh. They're like, shut up, Steve. We don't want these. I have nothing against Jews. That's why I'm actually doing my film is I'm trying to figure out who's really running the world. And I don't think it's the Jews, like a lot of people are saying. I think it's meant to look like that. But, my friends are saying, don't tell them, because we don't want them coming and genocide in Edinburgh, taking back the real Holy Land. But this is where these Udes and Ebers came from. They came out of Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. To me, it's important that people start looking at this information, because this will put an end to what's going on in the Middle East right now. Because, that's just disgusting. I don't know where you guys stand on that Gaza thing, but it's got to stop.
So for example, let's take the most famous one, like the Great Pyramid of Giza. You think that's a recent build?
No, I think that's older. So as Tessarian has talked about before, there was an older civilization that started in Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and they were apparently much bigger than us. They were taller in stature. I don't want to call them giants, but to us, they would be like pretty big. Andre the Giant. They were big people. They did leave after a cataclysm, and they did go east. So these Scythians, you might call them, they're a different name, the Hyksos, which is an Irish word, Tixos, which means a shepherd king or priest. So historians say, we don't know who these mysterious Hyksos are. Well, if you just take that word in Irish, it's Tixos, which is pronounced Hyksos. It's shepherd kings. So it was these druidic priest class who went and built it. I'm going to put that in my movie. The old pyramid names are not what they're called today. They had different names, and they represent the four parts of the body. They were temples, the fourfold nature of man and the fourfold nature of spirit and physical. And I do question the Sphinx, I have to say, because of the David Ewing Jr. I'm not totally convinced that's as old as we think it is. But I don't know for sure. But I think the pyramids were there. So there was a cataclysm. These people went out, and like every Native American tribe around the world has stories of these white red-headed, bearded, blue-eyed people who turned up and taught them all this stuff. Florida Seminoles, when they found them, they spoke Hebrew, an ancient broken form of Hebrew. They're like, what? But that's because Hebrew is Eber. It was the priest class language of the Irish Druidic priests, the Ebers. So, and then you look at like Syracuse, which means the East. Well, the Syracuse Indians are in the eastern part of the United States. So clearly the ancient Irish named them. Then you look at the Sioux Indians. They got there, and the Sioux, some of them had blonde hair, blue eyes, and they were all living in Irish style, like cobstone houses. They were living in teepees. They were building English Irish cob houses. So there's evidence, abundant evidence that this civilization was there long before our history books are talking about with Cristobal Colon, all this, the shit we get in our history books is total bullshit. Then what happened is people started coming back to Ireland because it did survive there was a cataclysm. I don't know, maybe 1200, 1300 BC, the Ogygian flood. I don't know how you pronounce that. So people did start returning back to the motherland again. It was pretty wiped out. Then they came back. And then what happened is the people who are what you now call Rome or Romans, then that part of history happens. The Roman Empire starts coming and conquering everything. And then later, the Church of England, Church of Scotland, or Church of Ireland, and the Vatican, and the Jesuits even later in the 1500s, they started coming and wiping all this shit out. They've been hiding this history. They don't want people to know what Jesus Christ is. It's not a guy. And it topples their whole religion. They didn't want people, that's why they didn't fund Colonia. Because when they got to the Americas, the Native Americans already had the Christian cross and were worshiping the sun, Yesa, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't want people to know that because that blows their whole story. So that's pretty much like a basic summary of what I've been getting into. And the sad thing is, this when you should read or watch David Ewing Jr.'s videos too, like the Quran, right? The Quran doesn't turn up anywhere before 1853. It's only in written form and in oral form then. And then after that, it's written in like 1880. And it turns out it was brought to the Middle East by Jesuits from India, a British colony. So the British, the East Indies, and the Jesuits brought this Quran there to the Middle East. And the same starts happening when you look at like Kabbalah and the Judaic texts. They are not as old as we think they are, and they are rewrites of old Druidic tarot. Tassarian has probably talked to you guys a lot about this before. Have you talked to Michael about this stuff?
I wouldn't say this specific thing, but he's delved into other things that are kind of related.
We have a tarot-specific episode, with Michael. Yep.
Yeah, so he's got two great, huge books on all this, the Irish origins of civilization. So he's done a really, really huge deep dive into it. But it's quite a fascinating story. So a lot of people are saying, because the elites, do you ever talk to Zachary K. Hubbard? Do you know him? He does all the Gematria stuff. No. If you check out Gematria Effect News 25, he's on his 25th YouTube channel. They struck 24 of them. They don't want his info. He shows you that all the sports are rigged, all the politics, these mass shootings, everything is done by this numerical code, and it's the Jesuits doing it. And he's been proven. I've been watching him at least for 10 years or maybe 8 years. And it's these same number codes over and over and over and over by the book. He's predicting sports. Like, it's totally crazy. Everything's ritual. But people are saying, no, it's the Jews. There's always a Jew. And you're saying, yeah, but when you read the Jesuit oath, if that's real, they hate the Jews and they hate the Arabs. And I've got several books that I showed in my presentation. The Jesuits won't let you into their order if you have a Jew on either side of your family for 4 generations. They can't stand them. And I've got several books quoting this. It's in the Jesuit Constitution, right? So what they do is they put a lot of Jews in charge, so it looks like them. I'm with Jordan Maxwell on that. It looks like the Jews are doing it, so the church is like, oh, no, this is not us, right? We don't do that. And it even gets more interesting in history. Like when I went into the Georgetown Law Library, and I found a paper Yeah, it was like volume 1200, volume 72, page 1200 or whatever. But basically, like in England in 1000, see that they were under chivalry system in Christianity, so they couldn't charge. You couldn't put up property as collateral for a loan. But all these knights were going off to the Crusades, right? But the kings and then the local dukes, they needed knights around in case to protect them. So they couldn't lose the land. They could put up their chattel, like their slaves and their sheep and, crops and stuff. You could put that up. And the Jews were slaves in England. The Jews that were brought to England, they couldn't own property. They were considered a slave class, but they could bank and charge interest and take property. So the kings of England put in this Jewish banking system so that the Jews could take the land for collateral. But then what people don't get is the king was taking all the money off the Jews. And then 200 years later, they kicked all the Jews out. So we do kind of have a Jewish banking system mixed with the Knights Templar banking system. You've probably heard that story. When they go to the so-called Holy Lands, which again weren't in the Middle East, it was actually happening in England, Scandinavia, Northwest Europe. But so that is what we have. We do have a mix between a Knights Templar and a Jewish banking system, but it's not run by Jews. And I even went into BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. I went in and who founded these people or who's running them? And they're not Jews. They're all Roman Catholics, like every one of them. There's a couple like Larry Fink working for BlackRock. He's Jewish. So then I started looking at the Bolshevik revolution, right? The Jewish Bolsheviks. Well, then they put in their committee of 17. There was one Jew. There was one Jew. The rest were Jesuit priests or Roman Catholics. I was like, what? Then I looked at the Balfour Declaration, right, where Rothschild and Lord Balfour get together after World War I, and then they designate the Holy Land, in what's now Israel or Jerusalem for the Jews. Well, I'm like, who is this Balfour guy? So I looked. He comes from two Roman Catholic and Greek Orthodox Christian families. He's not Jewish. So like, well, no.
Greeks, you can't trust them.
Then I started looking into the Rothschilds, right? I'm like, who are these guys? They're the Orsinis. They changed their name. They're one of the main Pepe Orsini is the Gray Pope. He's like the main man in charge of the whole black nobility over the Vatican and Jesuits. And then you start looking at the Rockefellers, and they're Rothschilds who are Orsinis, and they're married into the Colonias. You're like, what the hell? So the more you start digging in, the people we think run the world don't. And this is my hypothesis. The reason, so the Jews, the Temple of Solomon is the temple of the soul of man, or the sun and the moon, soul, moon, built without sound or hammer. It's here. It's here. It's your pineal gland, thalamus gland, But so then they built places named after this science, this Druidic science. That's all happened in the British Isles. But the Jews have a thing that they think that the real Temple of Solomon, built by Hiram Abiff, the high ram, Aries, the ram of God, your head, your cerebrum. They think that Dome of the Rock is built on an actual thing called Solomon's Temple. They think it's in Jerusalem. They don't know that Constantine moved Jerusalem from Edinburgh, Scotland to the Middle East when he put his capital in Constantinople, or Istanbul now. So they can't have their coming Messiah until they rebuild the Temple of Solomon, and they can't do that until they blow up the Dome of the Rock.
But are you saying that? So who lived in this in this Edinburgh, Jerusalem? You're not saying it's the Jew today, right? You're saying it's the Druids.
The Udes, yeah. So there was no J until the 1700s. So what we call a Jew today would have been called a Ude in Gaeilge. If you take it in Irish, it's a Ude, I-U-D-H. That's a Jew. All a Jew was a person who followed the Druidic teachings of the Ebers, the priests of An or Yesa Krios, the sun and spirit, higher spirit descended into man in the physical. This is where we get our chakra system, Buddhism, right? All this comes out of the old Druidic teachings. So a Jew wasn't like a race or anything. You could be Chinese, you could black, it doesn't green, you could be an alien Jew. It doesn't matter. They were a people who had a belief, but see, they were God's chosen people because they chose to be godlike. They were learning meditation, Kundalini rising, getting into the higher spirit, getting out of the lower animal desires, right? So I always say God doesn't choose people. People choose to be like God. And God doesn't choose people who genocide people to steal their land, which is the most lower chakra shit you can ever do, right? Like, for land, it's not even for anything. It's you want their land, and then you want to kill them for it. You're like, that is not God. I'm sorry. I don't know where you guys stand, if there even is God or whatever. But to me, if there's God, she or it's not that behavior. But I think the Jesuits have put them there on purpose through Rothschild and Balfour, because the Jesuits want that area back. You've got the canal going through there, right? You've got all the shipping instead of going around Africa. You've got all the human trafficking, organ trafficking, drug trade, silks, everything goes through there. And they want that back from the Arabs. So I think they want the Arabs and the Jews to mutually destroy each other. To me, that's because the Jesuits set up Israel. That's Isis, Ra, and El. Again, that's the moon, sun, and Saturn, and also your 3 glands in your head. But I think that they want them to wipe each other out. I think that's what this is all about. I think they're egging them on to commit this genocide until the Arabs have no choice, right? Then I think if they do knock down that Dome of the Rock to try to build Solomon's Temple, what do you guys think the Arabs are going to do? Don't you think that's going to be just jihad all the way, or what?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they're going to stand for knocking down that holy? I mean,
No, I mean, it seems that way. It seems like there's so much escalation that could occur, And again, I'm obviously haven't delved into the history like you have. This isn't my area of expertise, but it's fascinating to listen here and just see all the the wordplay and the symbolism.
It's also like, so you guys have probably seen, there's a letter that they claim was in the British Museum written by Albert Pike to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1870s, talking about how they'd foment the 3 world wars. Have you ever seen that letter?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, there's a big controversy. Was it real? Was it in the British Museum? Yeah. And there's another, Mike Winter from Alpha Vedic told me, he thinks that it was written by a Jesuit priest in the 50s, not really from Pike in the 1870s. But either way, in World War III, so World War I and II happened exactly like that letter says. Now, that would make sense if the guy wrote it in the 50s, then that was easy to predict because it already happened. If it was written in 1870s, then we got trouble because these fuckers have been planning this for 150 years. But either way, the third one says exactly what's happening right now. We're going to unleash the Zionists, which is the Jesuit-created Jewish leaders, against the Arab and Muslim world, and then we're going to unleash revolutionaries all around the world, Black Lives Matter and all these crazy groups and all these immigrants they're flooding in everywhere, right? And they said they're going to let everyone just totally mutually waste each other to the point where we all have moral exhaustion and seeking a new moral compass. They're going to unleash the new religion, which is the religion of Lucifer, or the old Masonic religion, the Luciferianism, the science of Luciferianism, right? So that's what it says. And then you're like, okay, well, that's exactly what's going on in the Middle East. If, to me, I thought like, I think Trump's going to get selected again. I don't know I don't really care about politics. Do you care anything about that?
I personally don't really care. I care to the point that I'm curious to see how things are unfolding. And I personally wouldn't want Kamala Harris as president. I mean, there's definitely more alignment with Trump and RFK and whatever to some degree. But at the end of the day, man, it's not where I put my energy. It's something we talk about very often. Like, change happens more at an individual level as opposed to like the collective level where, some politicians are going to come in and tell everyone how to live and save everyone. Like, it's not really, I don't put too much energy into it, me personally.
Yeah. What about you, Joel? Do you give a shit or not even really?
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment your ass must shared. It's like, ultimately, it's never affected my life previously, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, what I saw, like, and it doesn't either, but here's where it could. So they tried really hard to make Trump look anti-war. Do you remember when in his term, he was meeting with Kim Jong-un?
Yeah.
Me and Kim, I saved world peace. And then he's meeting with Putin. Like, meanwhile, this dickhead's selling fighter jets to Saudi Arabia and shit. I'm not war, but he didn't get out of any of Obama's 8 wars, though. I didn't see Trump pull out. There were still 8 wars going on. Yemen, right? There all the other shit, Afghanistan, that was still going on while Trump was there.
Was Afghanistan still going on?
I think it might have stopped actually during him, or just it just.
Well, no, because they did, because remember Biden, like the whole debacle of Biden pulling out, like, and there was all this trauma going on.
Did Biden pull out of it?
Yeah, I think like they tried to pull out, and then supposedly they left all like billions of dollars of equipment and things there. Like
they did that too in Ukraine. That's what they do is, oh, we gave Ukraine all these weapons. You're like, you gave them the old shit that doesn't, it's obsolete. So you can build new shit like on the taxpayers' dime. You know. But anyway, so what I see, because Trump is Jesuit educated, so are all his children. He's totally, and everything he does is by gematria. He pretends to be with Israel, but I think that because he's anti-war, if they put him in again, and then this shit happens with the Dome of the Rock, right? And then all this stuff, I could see Trump very easily, because now, for the first time ever, there are protests all over the world that are pro-Palestinian, right? You never heard anything about this conflict for the last 20. I never heard shit about it. And when I was a dumb American, like younger, I didn't know anything about politics. I would have totally stood for Israel. I would have been, oh, the Arabs, you know, I wouldn't have known any better. Now, though, you see all over the world, there's people protesting and they're pro-Palestinian and totally against, and they're like basically televising a genocide on like CNN and BBC, you know, like, so they're not making a secret about what's going on. I could very much see Trump or even Harris, you know, because her team's Jesuit. Joe Biden's a Jesuit as well. I could see him pulling out and saying, no, I'm a man of the people. The U.S. is not going to back Israel. We can't support this. I'm not a war president. It's genocide. And then the Arabs will get the green light to give the jihad. I think the only reason the Arabs haven't yet is because they know the U.S. is behind Israel. You know what I mean? They know better not to come in. But could you imagine a scenario like that where the U.S. pulls out all of a sudden and Israel's left with its, pardon my French, dick in the wind, right? And then that starts, and then whoever's not winning, like if the Arabs aren't totally wiped out, because the Jesuits want them all gone, they want that land back. Then I could see the U.S. having, and maybe NATO and the UN having to come in and fight the Arabs for the end of this. But this is even what that World War III letter talks about, whether it was Pike or the Jesuit priest. So that's kind of, and again, this is my opinion. I can't prove that this is going to happen. I'm just saying, from all the research I've done and what I see going on in the stated goals and what's just happening, I could very much see this scenario happening, and I could see this leading into World War III. And I don't think it's going to be like most world wars. I don't like Mexico's not going to be, I don't think everyone's going to be in a world war. Even
Joel's getting drafted from Mexico. Come on, bro. Let's go fight the good fight.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
You got to go protect your Palestinian and Lebanese people, bro. Come on.
Yeah, man. So I think it could be like that. Even in the States, maybe some of the coastal states might get attacked or be at war, and then in the middle be fine in Kansas or whatever, But they want a third world war. They stated it that they want this third world war in that letter. So the question is, are we going to give it to them? And what I'm trying to do is, I would like Jewish people and Arabs, and I would like them to start looking at the books and information I'm talking about to you guys and say, hang on a second here. This shit's null and void if that's not your Holy Land. And it's even more null and void if you're not actually God's chosen people. You know what I mean? So that's, to me, how you could diffuse this, is to say, hang on, that's not your land. It's not. And I like Jews. Like, if they want a place to go, if they all want to Jew out together and stuff, like, give them Nevada or, New Mexico. There's, how big is Israel? It's like not even as big as like, You know what I mean? Like, go ahead.
It's not super large. Yeah.
Yeah, you take Vegas or whatever. I don't,
So real quickly, I mean, you might have commented on this. So like the reason for Constantine to like cloud everything and hide everything and move everything was so that no one knew about it. Like they just wanted to.
Yeah. So this is an interesting story, right? So the Romans, when they were coming to Britain, Babylon is what we now call York. The city of York is Babylon. Jerusalem was Edinburgh. They were meeting massive Jewish resistance. When you hear about the Jewish wars with the Romans, there were two, about the Jewish wars in 70 AD, and there was one just before. The Jews were the Yudes, and they did not want to pay tax. They didn't want to pay the 10% tribute to the Roman, and they did not want to have to worship dead Roman emperors as gods and things. They were Druids. They were tree worshipers and nature people, and they were into spiritualism. And they were fucking brutal, man. These Yudes, they were doing guerrilla warfare and taking out massive amounts of Roman legions and stuff. Like the Rome was having trouble with these people. And then they also slaughtered the shit out of a ton of these Yudes or Jews several times. Now, the problem is in the Eastern Roman Empire, they were telling everyone that the British Isles were barbarians. They didn't tell them there's ancient stone ruins and shit that put like Stonehenge to shit, there's all that kind of stuff and put the Great Pyramids to shame. And that there were these buried cities from a cataclysm that were massive, like Baalbek type stuff. So the problem was then when the emperors brought in Christianity and Constantine said he wanted to make that the one unifying religion for the Roman Empire because Constantine's mother converted to Christianity and the father was in York, Babylon. He was actually there. So in Constantine, he couldn't go back to Rome because people wanted to kill him because he's now a Christian and they wanted him to participate in the marches. They have all these pagan, on certain days, the emperor has to march up with a chariot and do this, that, and the other. And there were people wanting to kill him. So he moved the capital to Constantinople. So he sent some priests with his mother, who's now Saint Helena, to what we now call Jerusalem on a mission to find Jesus's spear of destiny, the cross of Jesus. And lo and behold, he's got some not Jesuit, but like priests waiting. His mother finds them all buried in the mountains, right to it, in the Middle East. You're like, oh, really? Your mom found that, right? So he's like, well, there it is. We found it. That's the place. It's like,
what's the timeline again of this? What's the timeline?
This is, Constantine is, what's he, 300, somewhere around there. Yeah. Now, Hadrian had done this before. Hadrian is, he moved some of the Greek stuff from Scotland as well. Constantine wasn't the first to do it. And the reason Constantine did this is because he wanted to control the religion nearer to Constantinople, which is Istanbul. So he wanted it more in the Middle East. And also, he couldn't tell the whole Roman Empire that the new religion of all of Rome is the barbarian religion because everyone thought the English were barbarians. They didn't know they were actually Yudes and Ebers and like really advanced people. They're spiritual people. Everyone thought they were a bunch of barbarians. They had no idea how cool these people were. So to me, this starts to get into like, are you a statist or not? Because I heard Jason Brashear's going, Rome was really cool, man. They assimilate everyone they conquered. They assimilated all their religions, and I'm like, everyone they conquered. So they came in and murdered everyone. Then they're like, yeah, but we'll let you keep your religion and you pay. So, to me, it's like, okay, yeah, it's cool. They let you keep your religion, but they still conquered you and put you under a 10% tariff and made you worship their gods and shit. So how cool is that? So to me, the Jews are actually like the first anti-statist anarchists, actually, and rebels. They were like they were like the Jedis, pretty much, and the rebels.
And when you say Jews, you're saying the Druids.
I'm saying the Yudes, the followers of the Druidic priests.
Can I ask you a question? So, like, what about like the compendiums and volumes of writings from Joseph Flavius and people like this? That these writings are supposedly, early AD. Like, is that all manufactured? Like, these are volumes of random history things about the Jews?
Well, it's interesting because Flavius is actually related to the Flavian emperors, both of them. He's their family. There are people who think that Josephus was a team of writers. I don't know. I can't prove it. What Commons, if you get into like Commons Beaumont's books, because he's written about 5 books on this really heavy archaeology. He's been around to the sites, taking all the historians like him, from Plato to Josephus to all of them, and seeing what they're saying. The thing is, they weren't very good about talking about geography. They'd say to the west, but they weren't totally specific. But they were at certain things. He'd say this thing overlooked that, or there was a big mountain here, and they're not where they are. They said Jerusalem ran east to west, but it doesn't now. It runs north to south, and there's no big mountains. There's not 2 mountains. So he's gotten into all this. It looks like those historians either omitted it, or we're getting like Vatican Jesuit rewrites of those books. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even know that these old books are real. We don't know that they haven't just made them and said, oh yeah, you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? Oh, they found them in a jar in a cave off a beach. You're like, for 2,000 years, nobody went into a cave right off a popular beach and found jar. Who found them? Oh, it's Jesuit priests. Are like, oh, really? Really? So
have you
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like if you're going to make them, like, why would you make 200 books? Like, wouldn't you get bored of like just making these random tidbits, facts? Like, this is volumes and volumes of stuff,
Yeah.
And then the question is, okay, so whose history are they writing about? Like, did they just make up these people?
That's what I'm saying. I think it's typology. So I think that the characters are real. I don't think the timelines are real. I think they happened in the Middle East in the British Isles. And then I think they expound, that's Blade Runner. It's in LA. But I think the time's wrong, and they're like, taking some liberties. And then obviously they encode all the Druidic knowledge, Tsarian. A lot of people have talked about.
Yeah. Have you looked into Ralph Ellis's work around this at all?
Yeah, I have. He thinks Jesus was the king of Odessa. He's got a totally different take. I don't think any of this happened in Odessa. I don't think it at all. I don't personally, it doesn't matter to me if Jesus is a historical character or not. My personal belief is he's not. He might be based on one again. And even Commons Beaumont and Anna Wilkes, Beaumont's take is that there was a Jesus, but he was in England. He would have been in southern England by kind of where Stonehenge is. Clearly his story is mixed with pagan sun worship and the zodiac. It's obvious that it's, his story is so obviously the sun and the zodiac and all that.
That's theological.
But that's Constantine again. So if you think about it, the Roman Empire's got all these different pagan religions, right? Because they've conquered all kinds of people. So this Constantine's trying to he's also got to please the Jews, right? He's like, how do we make these Jews happy? Well, they're looking for a Jewish Messiah again. So let's make this Jesus guy a Jewish Messiah. He's the son of God. He's got all the zodiac shit that all the pagan people like, So you could imagine why they did it. They took all the religions and just wrapped them up into this one. They're like, that's it. That's the new religion, right?
Yeah.
The problem is the Jews weren't having it. They didn't take Jesus as the king. They're not having that shit. They don't. He's not their Messiah.
Yeah, Steve, I have a question. Obviously, because I come from the land of Greece, so I'm curious about elements of Greece. Like people like the Greek philosophers, Plato, Socrates, etc. Like, where did all this occur? Like, what's the timeline? Like, are all the ruins in Greece, were they like built by Jesuits? Like, was the Acropolis built by Jesuits?
This episode is going to be called "Exposing the Fake History of
you go check. I'll send you guys some links after this of David Ewing Jr. going over this with the photographs and stuff. Again, I have trouble with that. Like, there's a lot of people who say Napoleon Bonaparte didn't exist, and Napoleon is Apollyon, the son, right? And it's got the 3 sisters. He's got the exact story of Apollo. He's done like incredible shit in a short time over too long a period of distance that anyone could ever do. He keeps losing, but yet they keep giving him more armies and stuff. Then you look at, like Plato, Pluto. They all have planet names. You look at like Sun Tzu, The Art of War, was written by a Jesuit priest. And it's about a king, a guy named Sun Tzu and Emperor Helios. Sun. It's like these aren't historical people. So if they were real, these philosophers, and if they were at the time that they claim they existed, then I would say that they were actually in Scotland. They wouldn't have been in what we're calling modern day Greece. And
when do you think the Acropolis was built? Like, when do you think it was built, or when does David Ewing or one of these people think it was built?
Well, yeah, that I don't know, but not very old anyway, because he's got pictures where most of it's not even there. And same, like, there are these old crumbled amphitheaters and stuff there. They're not there 100 years ago. There was no amphitheater there at all. There's more like mining sites and stuff and nothing, and you're like, what? It's. I know it's really challenging. Like,
listen, man, I'm not that attached to Greek history to be like,
what is the objective? What is the objective in going out of your way to build fake ruins, make them look antiquated, crumbly, this, that?
Like, yeah, I agree. And also, my dad just passed away at the age of 93. Like, there are pictures of him as a teen in front of, like, the Temple of Poseidon,
It was only 7 years old, dude. It was only 7 years old. I was like, oh, look at this new temple.
Yeah, like, this is where and I've been to islands, and I've seen at random points in different islands in Greece, climbing up and hiking to a place and seeing old ruins. Like every one of these ruins, they were made to look toppled over, as if like most of it like washed away or eroded, and there's just a few pieces there. Like, this is where I just go, I think it's a little ridiculous to think every one of these was just like placed there, like someone's creating like a little science project.
Yeah, I don't think he's claiming that every single ruin is not that. I think those are real ruins. What he's talking about is these ones where they're like major historical finds. Temple of Karnak here, or he's and it's really like he's got photographs of them building them with railroad tracks and slaves. And I just tell people, you just gotta research David Ewing Jr.'s work yourself, make up your own mind. I'm not totally right or wrong. Why I find it fascinating is because from another angle that I've been coming at with my other research, and I ran into his shit, I'm like, oh my fucking God, what if they are doing this? Because it turns out Welsh can read hieroglyphics. They're not Egyptian.
What is the benefit of and the objective in like
inventing
Plato, inventing Aristotle, or saying that they're not Greek? Like, what is I don't understand the goal of that.
I think, I'm not saying they did invent those people. I'm saying if they didn't, I don't think they would have been in Greece. But
why make them Greek then? Why did they make them Greek?
Well, this is the thing, because they moved everything. They don't want people to know. Egypt is, by the way, it's an Irish Gaeilge word. That's too long to get into here, but I did a presentation on Alpha Vedic if you guys want to see my whole slideshow on Egypt. But the whole point is the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuits cannot have people knowing the real history and placement and story in the British Isles of all this stuff. They have to make it look like all this shit came out of the Middle East, even though they're impossible. Like, Xerxes marched his army across 1,200 miles of desert sand, and you're like, what? There's no water. Where's the supplies? None of it fits until you start looking at it happening in the British Isles. Then it's all right there. But that would be the point. Yeah, they're trying to hide history. So they have people looking in the wrong place. They're saying, oh, all this came out of Egypt and Greece. And the reason for Egypt, the reason they're covering that up, is the black nobility families. They're claiming that they are descendants of pharaohs. So this is how they get their royal title and bloodline, right? They're just claiming they're from families that didn't exist in a place that didn't exist. This is where they're giving themselves the right to rule. This is how this all goes down. Have you ever seen a good guy to look into is Sean Ross, Hross. He's got a channel called Chatsafrats or something like that on YouTube. Sean Ross. He does a whole series on like Octagon and the Swiss Templars. It's basically all like Switzerland involvement in this, and the pharaohs. So he does a lot of series on these bloodline, these people claiming to be pharaonic descendants. And they do, like Rothschilds, Rockefellers, in their biographies, they claim to be pharaonic descendants. So even Donald Trump, remember when he was talking about his gold tower? He painted one of the floors on his Trump Tower gold or whatever, put it all gold. Because Uncle Charlemagne, he admitted he's related to Charlemagne. That's crazy. All these presidents, they're either related to Charlemagne or Edward II. Almost pretty much every president and almost every running mate have blood relations.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So obviously before you said you think that like Trump would be selected and that he'd play a role in making this whole thing that's going to potentially occur between the, in the Middle East. Like, do you think no matter who wins that this can be put into place?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I think Harris could do it too. I mean, Kamala Harris, she just, I don't know if she's acting stupid. Is this woman dumb or what? Like, she's a puppet. I know she was giving blowies, to get her way up to the top. Did you see someone just made a collage of her? Someone did a collage of her portrait made out of all the pictures of the prison she kept in jail.
I've seen that. I've seen that.
All the black people she locked up and didn't let out, which is brilliant.
Like just again, I just saw another clip. Like she just keeps running with this same starting point on her like talks, where like someone asks her a question and she goes, "Well, I was raised middle class, whatever." I can't do her fucking accent.
That was pretty good, actually.
But like it's just like, what is she? Just these word salads? Like I'm not saying Trump is some great orator. He's not. I think he communicates not very ideally, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But Kamala, like she can't even answer a straight question. Like I'm not a politician. If you just said, Yerasimos, act like you can answer these questions, I'd go in and probably definitely do a better job than she is. If someone said, "Hey, grocery prices are high," I'd just come in and just be like, we're going to do what we can to lower the prices. We can make some chips here and change things from our banking system and economics, like whatever, just fucking say some shit. As opposed to like this runaround of how she was raised middle class and then just like confirming that, yeah, people are suffering. They're going to the store and prices are high and they're dealing with some hard things right now. Like, what do you just fucking lie better?
Yeah. At least she's obviously a blatant puppet, like just like Biden. I don't even know if that's really Joe Biden, or if that's like a double or a brother, but that guy's clearly either senile or he's the greatest actor in the history of the world and he needs an Oscar for that. But either way, that guy's clearly a puppet. He's either senile or retarded or both. And he's just talking. He can't even get his scripts right. So I think this is what's great is, I think, to answer your question, yes, no matter who gets into the White House, I think this shit will kick off in the Middle East sooner than later. But I think what's great is it's finally obvious that these people are just puppets. Even the most normie TV watching, CNN gulping, Fox News loving, whatever, can see that these two people can't possibly be running the country. They cannot possibly, they're fucking retarded, So I think this is really great that people are seeing this is all a charade finally. Even Trump, I know a lot of people are really awake and they still think Trump's like not part of the rigged game. You're like, what? It's so obvious. They're all in it, but,
I guess time will tell ultimately. I know that's a phrase that's said often, but time will tell in that regards.
And I'm with you guys. Like, who gives a shit? Except for if they're going to drag us into a world war, then we do really need to give a shit. But you're right. I've never met Kamala Harris or Trump. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. I'd even go golfing with the guy, but just to see what a douchebag he is in real life. But
yeah, again, and we don't know these things. It's just, but like what Joel said earlier lands with me, and maybe I don't know, maybe who the president is impacts other people more. But like when I think back to like, I was born in the 80s, so obviously I wasn't really aware or conscious of like Reagan. But you think like George Bush Sr. and Clinton and Bush again and Obama, like my life was my life. I was living my life. These people didn't really impact my day to day. So I just feel like all this energy is put into like, my guy's going to win and it's going to change everything. And it's like, can you imagine what you could be doing with all that mental and emotional energy if you put it somewhere else?
Oh man, yeah, it's like over here. We have all the royalists. Like we've got a royal family in Denmark and England. They love their royals. You're like,
You got an Aussie royal, right?
We got Magleda. She's related to the Dutch and she's a Guelph, so she's related to the Windsors.
Who am I thinking of? Who's the Aussie queen or princess? Is she in Belgium? She's in Belgium, maybe.
Well, now she's our new because our queen stepped down. Yeah, she's Aussie. So the Mary,
Mary, that's right.
Princess Mary. Yeah, she's Australian. Yeah. So I guess she'd be the queen now. I think then, right? Because her husband's now the king, which is great.
Listen, Steve, she's a descendant of the pharaohs. Okay, please.
Yeah, she's a pharaoh.
About her with respect.
Yeah. What's great is that her husband, the king, when he was younger, he was banging all the underwear models and supermodels and shit. He was like a total playboy drinker partier, now this dude's like running the country, man. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's always going to be statists and royalists and, these people who just, I'm not even sure, even at those Trump rallies and stuff, I don't know how many people are being bussed in as actors. Do you really think they're like, how would you know how many people are there unless you went to one?
Yeah.
Because I've been to like Top of the Pops many times, in England. There's only 60 people watching the show, but the way the cameras work with TV trickery, they kind of zoom around and they make it look like there's 300 people in there, but there's not.
Yeah, so, you could do things like that with the camera work.
At the Trump rallies.
Yeah. How many do you think, I'm sure he does do some big ones, but you just got to wonder how much of this is just a circle jerk.
Yeah.
Or those
definitely seems like he is pulling crowds and he's like magnetizing a lot of people into this kind of, thing. So I don't know.
I always thought it was funny because like in the last one when it was Trump against Clinton, Bernie Sanders, he was Jewish. He actually was selling out stadiums of like 40,000 people. He was crushing. And then they gave the Democratic nomination to Hillary Clinton. She was lecturing literally for 300 people, and they weren't even making a secret about it.
Yeah.
So again, I'm like, if these Jews run the world, how come they didn't put in the Jew president?
Yeah.
They put in a papal witch against the Jesuit, trained guy. It's like, well, why didn't Bernie Sanders was the only guy who actually had a chance to whoop Trump in a real vote. I'm not even sure voting is. I call them selections. I really don't think that they're really counting votes and stuff, but
yeah. Well, also too, I mean, again, I don't know for sure. It's interesting to think about, but even now with all the early voting and all the tech behind the voting, it just seems like it's so much easier to shift an election from that standpoint, unless everything's just fake and they're just like putting fake numbers on the screens and going, oh, this person won.
I think that could be happening totally. There was those two brothers. They wrote that.
If it was that, why would they have to pretend that Joe got 81 million votes? Why would they have to create such a far-fetched story for Joe to win if it was just that? They'd make more realistic numbers. You'd think.
Yeah, because Trump and Joe Biden's names in gematria equal 81. Biden was 81 when it happened. He wins by 81 million votes. It's part of the ritual of all this. That number is on purpose, and Zachary K. Hubbard covers this. In fact, I put a clip of him talking about that in my first talk on Alpha Vedic. So if you guys want to go watch my first talk with Bear Lando and Mike Winter on Alpha Vedic, I even put clips of all this in with all the gematria, the numerology involved. Everything is rituals. These guys do rituals constantly. That's why there's even like the Dow Jones, you'll see the stock market start falling and raising at certain numbers on certain numerological days. Like, I think it's my opinion is it's all fucking scripted, everything. I don't trust a damn thing.
Yeah, I hear you there. I mean, I'm less trustworthy of a lot of things, but I'm less likely to be like, it's all scripted. Every single sports game is scripted, especially when you're dealing with athletes with skill and so many different variables and elements. And a lot of times these gematria people, they like predict things that aren't right. So it's like,
yeah.
I've looked into Zachary K. Hubbard previously, and I wasn't sold by any means whatsoever. When he started going to magnetic basketball rings and all this stuff, and his predictions have been wrong at lots from when I was looking at it previously. Like, I saw many holes in it personally when I looked.
Yeah, his sports, because he's got a Patreon, so he tells you right on the Patreon. He says like, he's the first to admit, but they do have like a 75% hit rate, and the best Vegas bookies and betties got 51%, 52. That's the best you'll find. So they do nail them. And the thing is, in past, once the games happen, you do see it, that it did happen by these numbers. I don't think all the players are in on it. I think maybe like football, you just need the 2 refs, the QB and the coach, maybe a wide receiver, so you don't need 4 guys in on it. No. And I don't watch sports a lot, but you do see a lot of really questionable shit.
Well, that's where I go. Like, I definitely don't think everyone needs to be on it. And sports game, like, I've been following sports my whole life, obviously not as much as I used to. I used to be a little bit more into it. But like a holding call here, a missed penalty here, like these things can shift the game easily.
I think that's how they do it. Yeah, I think it's just like that. And you do see a lot of that. I actually told Alex Zek to have Zach Hubbard on his way forward to talk, because Zek's a basketball. He's a hoops bro.
Yeah, we talk sports all the time, the 3 of us.
Yeah, Zek's a hoops bro, man. Do you guys play as well? Or what?
I did all growing up. Casually. Yeah, I played all growing up, hoops, and then I stopped. I mean, I haven't really done much in like 20 years, like it's like I used to, but it's fun. I like playing.
It's more like a run. I was always like a runner, cross country, and then golf. I've been golfing since I was 7. That's my
cool.
As Kamala Harris would say, I'm from a middle class.
From middle class family.
We could afford golf courses though, but again, like you guys are saying, none of this really matters. I'm with you guys. We need to put our attention on getting our community sorted, our new, where are we going to take this world? That's what I'm really interested in the law, starting to learn the laws and stuff too, so we can, we need to get out of their system and make a new one,
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, man. I think we got to get our minds straight, our bodies straight. We got to really know ourselves, love ourselves, figure out the shit that we're into, and then build communities where we honor each other's individuality and come together and do our thing. I mean, we keep preaching that, there's too much of our gazes are focused externally and not enough internally. Now, you could also go to the extreme and be too focused internally. So there has to be that dance between the inner and the outer. But I think ultimately a lot of change starts at the individual level.
I love that. Yeah. And that's such a good point. It's not just internal. Because there are a lot of people who are just looking like the Buddhists, just focus on yourself and all the world's magically going to change. You're like, not exactly, but it's the good place to start. And the reason I'm not in fear, the reason that a world war, they would do such a thing as well, is to come full circle on this interview. Yeah, people in fear don't take action. And when there's a world war, you bet your ass, everyone's scared shitless all day, every day. You're like, when's it coming to us or what's happening?
It's all trauma-based mind control. I mean, if you look around everything from childbirth, from even schooling, for education, the stuff that's, in our environment, the health, nutrition, like all this shit, they're just trying to fucking traumatize people and keep people more in fear. And it's like, fuck that shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and totally. And then there's also depopulation in there as well. Wars are really good ways to keep the populations down. And then they also got the rebuilding contracts for all their contractor buddies. You know what I mean? Just, even after Afghanistan or Iraq, someone's got to rebuild that shit after they blow it all up. So, that's where all their buddies come from. Well, the guy who rents a room from me, he's actually Polish, but he grew up in Sweden. He was special forces. He was telling me, like, on these military bases, you wouldn't believe what they're charging for, like, shoelaces for their soldiers' boots, and toilets are like $20,000 for a $100 toilet you get at Home Depot for a couple $100.
It's such a scam. It's such a scam.
It's totally charging everything, and we're all the taxpayers are paying for it. It's crazy. It's a total racket. Yeah, and he said that's where the real money is like the shit for the troops and the equipment and all the food, even the catering. He said that's where really most of the war budget's going, is that kind of crap.
I mean, even just think about during freaking the quote unquote COVID times, like all the fucking masks, all the tests, all the testing, all the shit that was put into place for a few years, Like, I mean, I used to be in the acting world and in the production world, and like,
yeah.
Everyone had to go and get they had before you go work in a job, you had to go somewhere to some fucking clinic and get a test. Like, the amount of money that was in that, You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
just
Like,
think with a hand lotion. Even who the fuck
well,
hand
even
lotion?
just that, having that everywhere, just having it everywhere.
P Diddy must have been supplying all that.
Yeah, there was a great meme I remember sharing in like 2020, and it was like this Indian dude in all gold, and it was like he was like saying like, oh, like the creator of Purell or something like that.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. Yeah, and the stickers, to me, it was just how it was all ready to go, you know, no matter what country that fucking they had the arrows on the floors ready and the
Yeah.
Everything, all that, like within a few months, the technology for contact tracing was all ready to go. Like, come on.
yeah, didn't you guys think
something
that?
that's happened out of nowhere, and then they're like, oh shit, we got to figure this stuff out. They were ready to roll things out.
Yeah, to me, it looked like it was all ready to go. Like there was a lot of that stuff where you're questioning, like, how did you manufacture, like those glass plates at the supermarket, you know, or the plastic? You know, who the fuck had like 200 million glass plates sitting around?
The fucking the plexiglass.
I love the video where the guy's trying to pay the girl through the plexiglass and he just keeps putting his money into the glass.
Well, I wanted to bring this up before. It's like, sure, we can go down like and educate and read things and learn, but like intuition, like where is our intuition to like just be in the world and to sense things and go like, this is bullshit. This doesn't like, we've become so disconnected from our bodies. We've been indoctrinated mentally where we've kind of, how do I say this? Like we've become more disconnected to this deep wisdom within our bodies as well of knowing. And like, I mean, I kind of my mind was blown at how many people I think fell for. I actually thought maybe it wouldn't have gone the way it did. You know, I had more faith. Now I have more faith now after going through all that time. But like when it was going down, I was like, there were people in my life. I'm like, really? You're totally buying this whole thing? But what are you going to do?
I thought, yeah, because, you know, like I was in the camp, we were just nonstop proving contagion experiments have failed and virology is fake and how they do it. But yeah, I'm totally with you. For me, it was like, hey, there's this guy, Bill Gates, who was standing on a TED Talk before saying he's got to get the population down to as close to zero as possible. And if they do a good job with vaccines and reproductive health care, which is sterilization, they can lower that by 10 to 15%. Now this guy's selling you the shots from a company called Pfizer, who has $4 billion in malpractice lawsuits for bad, bogus products. And you got the mayor of New York sitting there going, that's a good burger.
That was ridiculous.
Was that the creepiest shit you ever saw?
Oh my God.
It was like right out of that movie, They Live, you know what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah.
you can't see this. Like you
What
said,
was his name? I forget his name. I can't even remember.
Wasn't that LA? It was LA, wasn't it?
No, that was New York City. New York
I
City.
think it was the New York
It
guy.
was the mayor before this other guy, Adams, came on board, I think. I don't know. Yeah.
That's a good burger. You know, like what could do it? I thought it was a spoof on like Saturday Night Live. You know, I was like, real or what? And to me, like you're saying, that's your intuition. If you took a shot from these people, I don't know where your head is at, no matter what you think. You know?
Yeah, it's intuition, like being overridden by so much ideology and indoctrination, especially all the altruism indoctrination of like you have to sacrifice yourself for others. That's the morality, you know, of the world. And it's like, no, fuck that shit. I don't care. I'm not sacrificing myself and putting this mystery concoction in my body. Like, so what? So I don't get my grandma ill. But again, when you get down to the bottom of it, when you kind of unpack the lies of quote unquote virology, you're like, oh, this shit's nonsense. You don't need to live in fear. You can hug whoever you want. You know, disease and quote unquote sickness doesn't happen from these microbes. So, you know, I think that's why they're kind of trying to push the virology lie. You know, even in the alternative media.
Yeah. There's a big, I don't want to call it a fight, but yeah, there's, you know, the Kennedys and there's people in the health freedom movement who are still pushing that this shit's real and bioweapons and totally unproven. But yeah, and it was crazy because it's like, all right, if you don't want to kill grandma, tell grandma to stay home.
Yeah.
It was the first time in ever you're like, you all have to get locked up so you don't, it's like, if you're scared, don't go out.
Yeah. I'm curious, like if they try to pull another type of kind of virus thing, I have faith now. I just can't see it going down the same way. But
I don't know.
Yeah, what do you,
It's hard
yeah,
to.
what do you think, Joel? I'm really interested on both your opinions on this. Let's say they do it again, and let's say in 4 months they come with
If they have the technology, like with AI and really hardcore deep fake videos to even make it look worse, like people's fucking eyes bursting out on fucking TV or shit, then maybe it could work for a bit, but I don't know.
It's just hard to say what's possible when the survival instinct is really threatened and comes up in that way, you know, like, because fear blurs and takes over everything. Like rationality, you know, goes out the window. So yeah, I agree with you. It depends on how good a job they do. Like this is a legit death fright scenario, you know?
right, yeah, and the gaslighting too. Because if you think last time, there was just 4 videos. One guy in China, Wuhan, right, is standing there and just falls on his face. You don't know if he had a heat stroke or there's no explanation. Then there's like a body in a blanket in a gurney in a hospital, shaking around and shit. You're like, oh my God, it scared the fuck out of all of us. And maybe 1 or 2 other clips. There were 3 clips or 4. That's it. You know, we were all like, holy shit, holy shit. And then you're walking around the rest of the time going, how come no one else is shaking around in a gurney or falling on their face or whatever? Like, where, you know? So if they did that to all of us with 4 video clips.
Yeah, 4 video clips, and then the genius of you can still pass it even if you're not symptomatic.
Yeah, asymptomatic spreaders.
Yeah.
For spreaders, you're like, yeah, all right.
And yeah, it wouldn't take the same way. Like, surely not, you know?
Yeah, not the same way. I don't think so.
I still see, like, once in a while, I'll see one person's, I just saw one yesterday walking around with a mask, you know, through the train station. And I don't even bother going up. And a couple of years ago, I would have went up and said, hey, here, you check out these.
Listen, man, I'm like, if you let me live my life, you can live your life however you want. Like, this is where I come from. I'm like, you want to take all the fucking vaccines you want? Go take them. But the minute you try to tell me that I have to take them, we're going to have a problem. But other than that, let me just live my life.
Yeah.
And then you can live your life. Like, I might not agree with it. I may think that you're causing harm to yourself, but like, fuck it, do it.
That's your choice. Yeah, I have a problem when they're fucking putting them in their kids and our kids and telling them like, you got to do it. It's the kids because they can't protect themselves.
Yeah,
you know, but it's like, fuck it. My parents vaccinated me too. They're like, we didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know. And also, obviously, you know, I didn't get as many vaccines as people got, you know, as people get now. You got even less vaccines than I did. And there's also even the argument, like, this is where I go, like, I just don't think also vaccines are like the main cause of why people come down with issues. Like, we can't leave consciousness at the door. You know, there's so many factors. There are kids now who are getting 70 vaccines and they're still fucking great athletes and doing great in school, you know, so health it's not just materialistic. And
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're getting poisoned and that's the reason. There are a lot of people who like live perfectly healthy lives. They're not poisoning themselves and they have heart disease and they get cancer and they get all these things because there's many other factors involved. And I know you've mentioned it and we've had like 7 episodes on German New Medicine, Dr. Hammer's research, like a lot of this stuff, you know, plays into it. What is the hygiene of your psyche? You know, what is the state of your nervous system? How are you dealing with challenging events and acute events that happen in your life? You know, like, so they can drill us with all of this fear, but what's your inner state like? You know?
Yeah. And I think, remember what was cool was when they were gaslighting the fuck out of us during COVID. We were memeing the fuck out of them, just like you said. How great were the memes during COVID? It was golden.
The golden era for memes.
I was in the front lines of the meme wars, man. That was it. I'll always remember that.
Yeah, so it's like what we did was we relaxed everyone's psyche. Like you're saying, we came out with the meme wars and we're just fucking making a joke out of all this shit. And we did a lot of countering, I think, to a lot of what would have been like psychosomatic illness. Through the meme wars, you know, the memes were just fucking bright. They're even great now. Like they didn't age well, you know, people sitting in the circles or they're in the swimming pool with like a mask and bubble over their head or in those bubble domes at the restaurants and shit.
The meme wars of the 2020s, the best of times.
Remember the ones they had those hats at the restaurant with the foam things coming out, like the swimming pool foamies, or like to make you stand the social distancing hats. 6 feet apart.
Now we look back on that and I go, wow, man, like what, like the state of the world during that time. Like
it's like a Twilight Zone segue, you know?
Dude, totally. It was like a Twilight Zone episode, you know? Especially when you see those pictures now, you're like, We went bad. We went full fucking off the deep end and lost the plot. Crazy.
Yeah, and then people out there pretending like they didn't go off the deep end. They're just like, oh, life goes on. The science changed. Let's go. Let's keep going. Like, really? You told me to go fuck myself, and then I was killing people, and I was a horrible human being. Okay. All right. Whatever. You have to live with that.
Yeah. Now they're, we forgive and move on. You're like, you were trying to tell us you want to throw us all in camps.
Yeah.
That was scary shit. Remember when they were talking about like we should all go to camps and stuff?
I know. We're getting ready to survive what, our 5th winter of death? Man, shit, it's incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, Brendan. We were just laughing. Someone was talking about fear porn. Brendan Murphy, I think.
Yeah.
He said, "What do you think's the next fear porn?" And I said, "Oh, I like mine old school, like killer bees. Remember the killer bees were going to kill us all." And
the hornets.
Ozone layer. Remember the ozone layer? I'm 53. I was born in 71. So I've been through about 10 of these. We're all going to die so far. You know, they never fucking happen.
Yeah. Well, what he was referencing in that post was something which I touched on, and that there's, based on gematria and other numerology, some people believe there's a massive 9/11 like attack happening on the 8th of November in Sydney.
Really? Yeah, on the 8th of November. Those always come and go. They don't happen. Usually when something happens, like with the gematria, it's like event 201 or whatever. It's something you don't hear about. It's behind this. It's behind the scenes when it kicks off. There were some, I think we were all just supposed to die on October 24th, wasn't it? Or so I think we were all supposed to die last Thursday or something. These go around, 2012 and, Nibiru and all that shit. Like, that was a good one. Planet X, remember that was going to kill us all. Y2K.
Y2K, I remember Y2K, yeah. Well, I just think sense of humor needs to be, like, people need to be able to laugh at things and take things, like, not as seriously. I mean, that's going to support your health, I think, more than anything. Like, just like, we have no fucking clue about so much. We do what we can. We learn what we learn. And like, can you laugh at yourself? Can you laugh at the world as well? Like, I mean, what does that do to your inner state? I mean, I know it helps me out. Like, yeah, I'd like to get into things and get deep. And at the same time, like, fuck it, like, I just think I think it's funny a lot.
But I've got too much to do. I've got two kids. I've got a 3rd kid on the way. I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to, be a musician. There's fucking too much to do for me to actually even have the bandwidth to care as much as I'm expected to care, like, about some of this shit.
I'm the same, man. There's so many people sitting around on Facebook like, well, did you hear what happened today? I'm like, I don't give a fuck what happened today. I'm doing this shit. Where do you guys look like at the time? I'm just like you, I'm like, I'm trying to make a movie. I'm trying to read 7 books, go on 10 podcasts. I've got a kid too, I'm teaching, gigging 4 or 5 days a week, I'm gigging. I'm like, I don't have fucking time to care what happened in the news. It's the same shit. I know what they're up to. I don't care like what a lot of people are living off the daily, the day by day. It's like Chatty Cathy, like the moms that used to sit there.
Yeah. It's all the gossip. Like, are you up to the new thing that's happening? That's like, But I think you're seeing that amongst a lot of us in our community, that like you see it over time, how the narrative and the paradigm shifts. Where like I see a lot of us talking about the same things now, where it's like, do your thing, focus on you and your health, like create what you want to create and bring into the world, and build communities around that where we honor and respect one another. And like the world's going to do, the people out there, they're going to do what they're going to do. And so like, and they want you to get sucked in. They want you to get into arguments on social media. Like I can't remember the last time I got into like a fucking argument on a thread on some stranger's thread on Instagram or Facebook. Like, I just don't have the time for that. And nor do I care. Like, believe what you want. Like, how many people's minds are changed in a back and forth thread on Facebook? But you actually see people often go, oh, I know we were just yelling at each other that I was right and you were arguing that you were right. And now I see the light. It just doesn't. It just fucking doesn't happen that way.
It doesn't. I was saying that too. I love like Dr. Jordan Grant. He's great at that shit, man. He shuts them down, but especially if it's flat earth and stuff, he kills them. But that's the problem, is debate is gone. It's just like you're saying, it's just fucking argument now. There is the art of debate. It's totally over. And do you guys even like, do you check your comment sections and reply and shit? When you post videos on your channels, do you even bother like replying or care? Dude.
I mean, on Instagram, when we post our reels and things like that, we just kind of let the conversation go and however it goes. I mean, we might like certain comments, you know, we might respond, thank you. But like when people are just coming in based off of a 90-second clip from a fucking 2-hour episode from like multiple books that the episode's based on, and someone's commenting on the clip as if they know everything that it's about. Like, I'm not wasting my time.
We have a reel that we have a reel we posted from our episode with Mark Gobach, questioning the globe Earth model. And this comment section is just a dumpster heap, man. And every day for like a month now, just goes on and on and on and on. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, how are people even still seeing this? It's ridiculous.
I love it. So what I do, like, we have some trolls. As soon as I post, even if it's a 2-hour video, within 3 minutes after it's just uploaded, I'll get 3 dislikes. They're trying to do. So I always give myself a like before it's even uploaded because I can get in first.
Yeah.
But so the first day I'll go through and then they'll say their douchey shit. So anyone's like a disrespectful wanker, I'll just block them. But then after that, I'm like, you guys, I don't even look at comments. Every time I open up YouTube or BitChute, it's like, you have 740 comments. I'm like, I don't have fucking time.
You have time for that shit.
Yeah.
Oh. And I'm like you, I believe in free speech, but I also don't want like douchebags running demonic shit, you know, on my threads.
It's also your page. And like, I'm totally cool with someone communicating something and disagreeing and coming from a somewhat grounded place. Like you said, we've lost our debate. Like I've noticed in the past where I want to respond to someone, I take a break and I check myself. I'm like, where is this coming from within me? You know, am I reacting from this defensive place, from a sympathetic kind of state where I'm like, ugh, or I'm like, okay, hold up, let me chill, let me kind of like gather my thoughts, and then let me present it in a way that I think can be heard. And I have actually had maybe some people who come into my DMs, I might be more likely to respond. And I feel like responded in ways that isn't continuing like the triggered back and forth. And the conversation actually ends pretty decently, you know? So I think certain things can be neutralized. And not always does it take 2 to tango. Sometimes it's one person that knows how to kind of do some fucking communication kung fu and can like neutralize the situation and bring some rationality to it. But generally speaking, I just don't have time. Like, you're a stranger. Like, if you're like someone I care about, that's a friend of mine, and like comes at me and wants to challenge me in a respectful way, then I will, you know, then I'll engage a bit. But you know,
that's totally, yeah. It's like, you can see if they're just being a douchey cunt, like, pardon my French, but right off the bat, that isn't going to go anywhere. No matter how nice you try to be, you can see how they've engaged you because you didn't engage them. They started it.
Yeah.
I had to stop because I'm a Virgo. So like, just like you said, when I'm a Virgo, I have to fucking get the last word and I have to win. So I just have to win and I have to get the last word. So I've just learned, like, just don't get involved because they're just going to take my energy away from me. You know, I'm just like, you're right, whatever, I don't care, or just don't even reply because I can't stop myself once I get into those. If it goes 3 back and forth, I'm fucked. They got me for like, then, you know, I'll do 20 of them until I win.
That's funny, man. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's the way people communicate these days. You know, I think we're still emotionally immature and have low emotional intelligence as a species. And I think that's the next level of growth is like people really getting more regulated from a nervous system standpoint and understanding how to communicate and be more rational, because the way it's going now, it's like, it's ridiculous. Anyways, man. Anyways, so great to have you on finally. I love this conversation. I mean, I think our audience doesn't have a lot to chew on. I mean, I do as well. I mean, I think it's really fascinating around the historical piece. And a lot of it's interesting to think about, you know, are we moving towards this World War III that's kind of been predicted or planned? And again, like I said earlier, time will tell, man. But appreciate you. How can you
thanks, guys.
How can people listening like go deeper into all your stuff?
Well, if you want to find my stuff, I have with Space Busters, YouTube. I can't put everything there. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff I say that gets banned, but we have a BitChute, Odyssey. I think we have a Rumble that gets automatically uploaded, but I don't go on there. Vigilante TV. And also, I'll repost this too for my channels if you guys will allow that.
Yeah, we'll send you the.
And Joel, maybe then maybe you want to plug your song or your album, man, right now, so that when my people watch, you want to plug your song, man, so they can
Yeah, sure, man. For whoever's into conscious hip hop, I go by Joel Rafidi, so Joel Rafidi, Rafidi. Search me on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever. And the new album's called Scorpio. You can check it out and let me know what you think.
It's good. I heard the track, Legacy. It's great. Great track. I just wanted to say too, Jason Bashir's had an Indian chief guy on or something like that. A really cool guy. Just what you were saying. He's saying, two links of a chain, they only touch at one spot, and the rest of the link, the chain link it's free. It's not touching anything. Mm-hmm. And he said that's what we need to start doing. Whether you're a flat earther, ball earther, or you think the ancient histories from Ireland or the Bible's real, we need to start connecting with the points we agree on, the chains, as you said, and stop arguing over the rest of the shit that agree to disagree and just not talk about that shit. Like, why come on and argue over the earth shape with someone who disagrees with you? Talk about something else where you do agree. What do you agree on? NASA's robbing you blind, whether, okay, we can agree on that. Ball or fucking flat, NASA's money laundering and faking shit on you to steal your money. So, and I think that's really important, and it's cool. Thanks for having me on. I think it's cool that people like us are meeting and we'll introduce each other to our followers and people, and turn each other on to each other. And kind of help each other grow into one. I kind of see this, we're growing into one community. The more we all go on each other's podcasts or things, we're just turning our peoples onto each other. And we're like growing this super community of like super awake and conscious people. And we're going to be fucking dangerous to the elites.
Yeah. And very curious people, which is what I like, people that are really curious and open to kind of challenge their established beliefs. And even, like there may be a lot of things they may agree with you on and some things they don't. And then there's some things that we share that they may agree on. It's cool. Like there's not one single person on this fucking whole world that I agree with every single thing. And I think we need to move beyond this. Like I have to find the person that I'm going to agree with everything. Like fuck
what about me? What about me?
I don't know. We're pretty aligned, I mean, it's definitely like we're definitely aligned when we met. I mean, you're a brother. I mean, this is like a once in a lifetime partnership, and I'm so grateful for that.
But the thing is, like, even when we disagree, we have the conversation to find where like what might be more true, and so we kind of end up on the same page on most things.
That's
anyway.
The chain. Yeah, man, which is great. If you guys want to, again, I just would like to say to the people watching this, don't believe a fucking word I said today. I'll send you guys a list of all the books where I'm getting this information from. Yeah, because I'm sure that got real heavy in there with what do you mean ancient Ireland and England and the Bible, I'll send you the books and you guys can go look for yourselves. Don't ever believe me. I'm just going to show you where to look and tell you that history is not what we've been told it is. And there's something more going on. And I'm just like you guys. I just want to know what the fuck's going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's all I'm doing is trying to figure out what's up here, man. What's going on around this joint?
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks. Great. Thanks for having me on. I'm really sorry I missed it last time. I got the time wrong, and it was cool you rescheduled, man. I've been looking forward to this talk, so it was great.
Of course, man. We share lots of mutual friends, and I know we got a chance to be in Acapulco at the same time. We didn't get a chance to chat much, but I think we made up for it today.
Yeah, man. I was really sad we didn't talk. I talked to Sophie a little bit, but not totally much. But yeah. But yeah, if things happen, if you can get there, man, I'd love to see you guys there again, or maybe Music in Sky.
Well, I've been to every Music in Sky, so if
I'm thinking about going this time. All right,
yeah, man, that'd be great.
I'm thinking about that. Well, Joel, you're in Mexico, right?
Yeah, I went to the last Music in Sky. I'll be at Confluence in May. Alex X, one that he co-creates, and I'm not sure about Music in Sky yet, but we'll see. Yeah.
What about Acapulco? Are you far from Acapulco, or where in Mexico are you? Or you don't want to say? I don't know.
No, I'm in San Miguel de Allende, so central Mexico, in Guanajuato. I'm gonna have a third child real soon, so I think Acapulco's gonna be off the cards.
Oh no, yeah, no, you can't. The missus. you gotta stay at home. But anyway, thanks so much, guys. It's been brilliant. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I have a podcast that's not a podcast, but I'll have you guys on someday if you want to.
Awesome, man. We'd love to get into the things that we're into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. That would be great. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Thank you, Steve. Everyone else, thanks for listening. Take care. Well, that was an interesting episode.
Yeah, man, definitely for sure. Great to hear Steve share his thoughts. Obviously, we share a lot of mutual friends, and he's kind of been, sharing his thoughts and his views on a lot of different subjects for a while now. So it's good to have that conversation. I mean, definitely trippy. I mean, there's definitely a part of me that's like, whoa, what? In the ancient Greece, it's not really ancient Greece, but I mean, like he said, don't believe him, go look into it for yourself and make your own decision. And that's how everyone should be about a lot of this stuff. If you're intrigued, if you're stimulated by certain ideas, like, don't just automatically blindly trust anyone. Like, if you're interested and truly curious, pick up a book and see how it lands for you.
I agree. Follow the thread and then trust yourself during that thread, like let your own mind, as we say, be the final arbiter of truth, as always. But yeah, anyway, guys, thanks so much for listening. For those that are new here, we cover a very diverse array of subjects. Some stuff is conspiratorial. And a lot of it also is like how to lead an awesome life. And we get into, specific things around tools, systems, ideas, philosophy, psychology, because despite all of it, at the root of it for us, here for the truth, is being here for existence, and that's the primordial fact is you exist, you have life, you're a living human being, you have unique purpose. And so if we really, really value that, then how do our actions and our behaviors shift? How do we grow as a result? To meet to the value that we have for our own life. And that's something that we're really interested in. So highly recommend you guys go check out our other episodes. You head to our website, hereforthetruth.com. We've got some cool quizzes around as well for you to just know yourself and kind of gauge where you are on a deeper level. The Relay F test will let you know how authentically you're living. And also the Truth Seeker archetype quiz can kind of give you a bit of a category as to where your head's at in this realm. And all those links are available in the show notes and also on our website. But appreciate you being here. Appreciate every new ear that finds our podcast, and appreciate the long-time listeners as well.
Smoking mirrors, I'm seeing through the illusion. Waking up in a time they think you're in a delusion. Somebody set the alarms, cause they be too busy snoozing. I'm in a DeLorean. Fast forward and never